Hi everybody, this is Megan. I am the children's librarian at Moon Township Public Library, and this is our series for elementary students with nonfiction books paired with a art and science component. So this will be the reading portion of this video, and today we're going to be talking about dinosaurs. So the book that I have for today to start out with is called How the Dinosaur Got to the Museum, and this is by Jessie Hartland. Millions and millions of years ago, dinosaurs had the run of the earth. They romped in the sun, ate what they pleased, and were bothered by no one but one another. More than 145 million years have passed since this dinosaur died. Over time, our planet went through colossal changes. Icy glaciers formed, then melted. Forests rose up and died. Volcanoes erupted. Storms raged, causing this dinosaur's bones to be hidden for a long, long time. So how did the dinosaur actually get to the museum? The mighty Diplodocus, an herbivore or a plant eater with pencil-like teeth, grazes on the plain. The rain comes, dripping, drenching, pouring, and turns into a torrential flood, sweeping the big dinosaur off its feet down the river to its death. As years turn into decades and decades into centuries, sand and silt blow over the dinosaur's bones, burying them deeper and deeper and deeper. Millions more years go by, mountains uplift, tilting the dinosaur beds, sea levels rise and fall, the earth cracks, and powerful sandstorms swirl over the old riverbeds. Water and wind erode the rocks. 145 million years have passed after the river flooded and buried the Diplodocus, and the ancient riverbed is finally exposed. Here, rooting around the old riverbed in 1923, is the dinosaur hunter. He has studied geology, pored over maps and books, and knows roughly where to look for dinosaur fossils. After searching and digging for months and months, he finds an unusually large bone in what today we call Utah. He suspects that what he's found may just be a big leg bone from a Diplodocus. Here is the paleontologist who is an expert in prehistoric fossils who travels from the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. to the plains of Utah to view the bones. He confirms that yes, it is indeed a dinosaur bone, late Jurassic period, most likely a tibia from the leg of the Diplodocus, which was discovered by the dinosaur hunter. Here is the team of excavators from the Smithsonian who remove the tons of stone surrounding the specimen. They work in the hot sun for over 1 year, searching for, digging up, and numbering more and more bones from the Diplodocus, which was confirmed by the paleontologist and spotted by the dinosaur hunter. These are the movers who carefully pack the wagons, haul to the train, and deliver to the museum the multiple boxes of the 145 million year old bones of the Diplodocus, which was dug up by the excavators, identified by the paleontologist, and found by the observant dinosaur hunter. Here are the preparators in the old Department of Geology at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., who unpack all 34 boxes and dust off and shellac each bone until they discover, oh no, the head and neck are missing. As quick as can be, the curator makes numerous phone calls, sends multiple letters and several dozen telegrams marked super urgent to other museums. He tracks down a replacement plaster cast of the missing head and neck for the Diplodocus, which was located at the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and shipped as quickly as possible to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. The crates arrive at last, and assembly is resumed on the Diplodocus, which was unpacked by the preparators, packed in wagons by the movers, uncovered by the excavators, verified by the paleontologist, and located by the dinosaur hunter. Here again are the preparators, now aided by the paleontologists who painstakingly put together the prehistoric skeleton over the next 7 years. They use plaster to replicate any bones that are missing or broken. They carefully drill holes in all of the bones and attach them together using iron and wire. Now back together after 145 million years is the Diplodocus, which was made complete by the curator, uncrated by the preparators, brought to Washington, D.C. by the movers, chiseled from the stone by the excavators, authenticated by the paleontologist, and searched for by the dinosaur hunter. This is the night watchman making his rounds in the dark and spooky back rooms of the museum. Oops, he trips over the protruding tail of the just completed Diplodocus, which was put back together by the preparators and the paleontologists, made whole by the curator, dusted off by the preparators, hauled to the train by the movers, numbered by the excavators, validated by the paleontologists, and hunted down by the dinosaur hunter. These are the welders who custom build an iron frame to support the fragile skeleton. They use a special welding machine to fuse the pieces of the frame together to create a stable structure. Soon to be safely supported is the 15-ton Diplodocus, which was tripped over by the night watchman, restored by the preparators and the paleontologists, made complete by the curator, shellacked by the preparators, delivered to Washington, D.C. by the movers, unearthed by the excavators, certified by the paleontologist, and scouted out by the dinosaur hunters. Here are the museum's riggers, who use cranes, hoists, and bobcats to move, position, and pose the 15-ton, 87-foot-long skeleton of the Diplodocus, which was hung from the steel structure by the welders, stumbled over by the night watchman, put together by the preparators and paleontologists, made complete by the curator, assembled by the preparators, transported by the movers, excavated by the excavators, checked closely by the paleontologists, and found in crumbling sandstone by the dinosaur hunter. Now here is the museum's exhibits team. They paint the background murals, produce the signs, and design the lighting for the Diplodocus, which was installed by the riggers, supported by the welders, tumbled over by the night watchman, joined by the preparators and paleontologists, made whole thanks to the curator, restored by the preparators, brought to the Smithsonian by the movers, gathered by the excavators, examined by the paleontologist, and discovered on the plain by the dinosaur hunter. These are the cleaners, who use soft brushes, mild soap, silky chamois, velvety rags, and feather dusters to make spanking clean for the opening ceremony, the Diplodocus, which was displayed by the exhibit team, hoisted by the riggers, secured safely by the welders, slipped on by the night watchman, reconstructed by the preparators and the paleontologist, made whole by the curator, cleared up by the preparators, shipped to the museum by the movers, chipped from the stone by the excavators, obtained by the paleontologist, and hunted down by the dinosaur hunter. Here is the Smithsonian's director, who makes a speech and gives a toast at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the museum's newest acquisition, the Diplodocus, which was washed by the cleaners, expertly presented by the exhibits team, moved to the museum floor by the riggers, stabilized by the welders, disturbed by the night watchman, pieced together by the preparators and paleontologists, made whole by the curator, restored by the preparators, sent from Utah by the movers, amassed by the excavators, authenticated by the paleontologist, and turned up by the eagle-eyed dinosaur hunter. The end. So you can see how much work it takes and how many people and specialists and professionals it takes to get one dinosaur into one museum. And I love that book because not only does it have great vocabulary, but it also mentions our own Natural History Museum here in Pittsburgh. So I encourage you to go online, especially to the Carnegie Museums. They have great resources. They have wonderful activities that they have up all of the time, but they especially have a lot going on right now to supplement your online home learning. So now we are going to find out a few things about another dinosaur called the Stegosaurus and some other dinosaurs of the plains. Dinosaurs lived between 230 million and 65 million years ago. The world did not look the same then. The land and the seas were not in the same places. Many dinosaurs lived on the plains. The plains were open country with a few ferns and trees. Some dinosaurs of the plains traveled in groups. A pack of fierce, meat-eating Deinonychus, I'm going to butcher these names, stalked the plains. They would only chase the big plant eaters because the little ones were too fast. And this is an Allosaurus. Allosaurus waited for big herds of plant eaters. Using their strong back legs, they ran across the plains to attack. They trapped a plant eater away from its herd. The Allosaurus used their claws and saw-like teeth for killing. Lions often fight over their prey like an Allosaurus did millions of years ago. And there you can see a size comparison with an Allosaurus and an elephant. So they were pretty big. A pair of Allosaurus fought over a dead animal. One of them had killed it and the other one wanted to steal it. And this is an Apatosaurus. He ate leaves and twigs. Its long neck made the food easy to reach. It used its narrow peg-like teeth to rake the leaves off plants. Apatosaurus also swallowed stones to help grind up the plant food. Giraffes have long necks and they can feed in high trees just like an Apatosaurus once did. An Apatosaurus lumbered across the wide plains, crushing the ferns. Its little eyes may have been able to see food from miles away. And this is a Carnotaurus. A Carnotaurus had a short head with two dull horns. Its skin was covered in bumps and scales, and it was the biggest meat eater of its time. Carnotaurus traveled in herds and walked on its strong back legs. It had tiny arms. I know someone else. Who else has tiny arms? T-Rex. An African buffalo has horns on its head, and it uses them in fights like the Carnotaurus did. You can see the size comparison there. Carnotaurus would often headbutt each other. They would fight to see which one would lead the herd. They wouldn't get hurt. The loser would just back away. And this is a Deinonychus, and it hunted in packs. They grabbed prey with their long fingers and slashed with their claws. They used the big claw on their feet for killing. Deinonychus stood on one foot and slashed with the other. Wolves hunt in packs and howl like Deinonychus did long ago. A pack of Deinonychus prowled the edge of the plains. They looked for other dinosaurs to attack. This is a Gallimimus, and it was a lightweight dinosaur that had long legs and ran a long way to get away from meat eaters. The arms and fingers of a Gallimimus were weak. It had no teeth in its jaws, so it ate insects and fruit. Ostriches can run as fast as the Gallimimus did. They run away from danger too. A Gallimimus would run across the open plains. It could easily outrun the big dinosaurs. And this is a Hypsilophodon. It ate short or small plants like horsetails and ferns. It used its sharp, narrow beak to nip out the best shoots and leaves. Hypsilophodon ran quickly on its long legs and long toes, and it also had a long tail. Gazelles eat short plants, and they run away from enemies like the Hypsilophodon did millions of years ago. Large meat eaters often chased the Hypsilophodon, which would burst out of the bushes and run across the plains to escape. This is a Saltosaurus. A Saltosaurus was a slow-moving dinosaur. It was a huge, long-necked plant eater. It raked leaves from trees with its peg-like teeth, and its back was covered in armor. No meat eater could attack this big, heavy dinosaur. Moose are big, heavy plant eaters that rake leaves from trees, just like the Saltosaurus did. With its long neck, the Saltosaurus could feed on treetops. It would stand on its back legs to reach even higher. We all know this guy, the Stegosaurus. The plates on Stegosaurus might have been covered in skin. Wind blowing around them would have helped cool the dinosaur. The plates might have been brightly colored and used for signaling to others. An elephant has big ears that help cool its body like the plates on a Stegosaurus once did. Now that surprised me, that size comparison. I thought a Stegosaurus would be much bigger than an elephant, but it doesn't look too much bigger. A Stegosaurus moved along, nibbling the plants on the ground. It was a bright splash of color on the plains. And this just has a where did they go section. Dinosaurs are extinct, which means that none of them are alive today. Scientists study rocks and fossils to find clues about what happened to dinosaurs. People have different explanations about what happened. Some people think a huge asteroid that hit Earth caused all sorts of climate changes. This then caused the dinosaurs to die. Others think volcanic eruptions caused the climate to change, and that killed the dinosaurs. No one knows for sure, though. All right, there were a lot of dinosaurs in there that I have never heard of. So I have one last book to share with you today. This is from the Let's Investigate with Nate series. This is a fantastic show on PBS, hosted by Nate Ball, and the illustrations in this book are by Wes Hargis. And this is about dinosaurs, but we have a whole series of these Let's Investigate with Nate books that are just fantastic. Most people have to wait for the Science Museum to open at 10 a.m. on Saturdays before they can go inside. And that's too bad for them, because in the hours before it opens to the public, the Science Museum is a portal to other worlds and other times. Nate Ball works for the museum, so he gets to explore it all, along with 4 lucky kids. Every week, Wendy, Braden, Rosa, and Felix come to the museum bright and early on Saturday to investigate with Nate. 9:32 already. Time flies when you're having fun, flying through time. What did you think of today's investigation, Rosa? It was awesome, right, Wendy? I'm kind of sorry it's over. Learning about the Earth's geologic time periods was actually super exciting. Who knew? Braden did, and I did. It can be hard to wrap your head around the history of Earth. We know it's 4.5 billion years old, but what does that mean? And how can we know that Earth was like 4.5 million years ago? Anything that was around that long ago died long ago. So how do we learn about Earth's history? Through fossils. Fossils are the preserved remains of long dead creatures. When these creatures' remains become fossilized, they become hard as rock. This is why fossils last so long. People have found fossils of tiny bacteria that are almost as old as the Earth itself. Dinosaur fossils are some of the most famous fossils around. Much of what we know about dinosaurs we've learned from studying their fossils. Paleontologists can tell a lot about dinosaurs from just a few bits of preserved bone. A paleontologist might look at bite marks in the bones of one dinosaur to see what kind of meat-eating dinosaur killed it. Or she might check out the fossils in other rocks near dinosaur fossils to see what kind of plants the dinosaurs lived around. You'd be amazed at how much we can learn just from fossils. And here's an entry from Braden's journal. It says, compared to the lifetime of our planet, humans haven't been around that long, just 200,000 years. If you think of Earth's whole life as one day, humans have only been around for the last minute. Normally, we'd have to study fossil records to see what was going on with life on Earth in the distant past. That's what dinosaur scientists do. What are they called again, Braden? Paleontologists. Hey, did you guys see that? What was that? I don't know. Let's see what it is. There it is. It's a dinosaur. But what kind? I bet Braden knows. You aren't going to believe this, he says, but I have no idea. I thought dinosaurs were giant. This one's a baby. I think one of them were little, even as grown-ups. Okay, but where did it come from? Dinosaurs are ancient animals who lived on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. The last non-avian dinosaur went extinct around 66 million years ago, but nobody's exactly sure why they all died. Many scientists think it happened after a giant asteroid hit Earth. This is Braden's journal, and it says, when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think of T-Rex and Diplodocus, huge monsters that could squash you without even noticing. But they weren't all so big. In fact, some of them were pretty small. They're still trying to figure out this dinosaur. It says, it must have sneaked through the time with us. We've been all over history this morning, and this critter must belong back in either the Triassic, Jurassic, or Cretaceous geologic time periods. Okay, team, we have to get this dinosaur back home before the museum opens to the public. Luckily, we're already at the dinosaur wing. Now we just have to figure out which room it belongs in, which means figuring out which geologic time period it belongs in. Nate, there's nothing in those rooms but bones and rock. This is a living dinosaur. I'll say he just licked my hand. Hey, remember, the museum's only closed for another 20 minutes. Let's go. We divided the day into hours, minutes, and seconds. It helps us describe time and helps us to keep track of what happens when. We also divide the history of the Earth for the same reason, so we can describe events and keep track of them better. The biggest division of the Earth's history is eons. Eons are divided into eras, which are divided into periods, and periods are divided into epochs and ages. But hours, minutes, and seconds are tidy and precise. 1 minute is always the same length as the next minute. This isn't true for eons, eras, periods, epochs, and ages. They aren't the same length as each other, ever. These sections of time in the Earth's history are actually based on geologic time. That means they're based on the layers of rock the Earth is made out of. So they aren't of equal length because each one covers a unique time period. Dinosaurs walked the Earth during the Mesozoic era. The Mesozoic era had 3 periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. Each of these periods was tens of millions of years long. Dinosaurs were around for over 100 million years. Humans haven't even been around for 500,000 years. I bet we can figure which period the dinosaur comes from. Paleontologists can figure out an awful lot from just a bit of skeleton, and we have a whole living dinosaur to study. Poor little guy, he's so far from home. Poor little us. We're going to get into so much trouble if we don't get him back where he belongs. The museum opens in 20 minutes. Let's just put him in one of the dinosaur rooms. It probably doesn't matter which we choose. Oh, it matters. The 3 geological time periods the dinosaurs lived in were not all the same. The planet was a very different place at the beginning of the Triassic from how it was at the end of the Cretaceous. And the dinosaurs who lived there were very different too. There's only one thing to do: investigate each time period for ourselves and figure out where this little dino belongs. Come on, gang, there's no time to lose. Hear that, buddy? We're going to get you back home. First stop, the Triassic period. Don't forget the dinosaur. He needs a name. What about Tiny? At the beginning of the Mesozoic era, during the dawn of the Triassic period, Earth was a very different place than it is now. There was no ice on the North or South Pole. The weather was warm and dry, and it didn't change as much throughout the year. On much of the Earth, there weren't seasons as we experience them today. But maybe the biggest difference was that there weren't that many animals at the beginning of the Triassic period. The entire Earth had just suffered what was known as a mass extinction event. Braden's journal. Mass extinctions have happened on occasion over the course of Earth's history. Sometimes we can figure out what caused an extinction event, but in most cases we can't. We don't know exactly what caused the Permian-Triassic extinction, but we do know it killed off over 95% of sea animals and 70% of land animals. That means that when the Triassic period started, most of life on Earth had just died out. But don't worry, because during the first 10 million years of the Triassic period, new life appeared on Earth. And some of that new life was a new kind of animal altogether, the dinosaur. Okay, investigators, what can we learn here? It's really dry. I don't think Tiny likes it here. He looks like he's too hot. Oh, look, there's another dinosaur. Hey, I know that one. It's a Plateosaurus. I think that was one of the first dinosaurs ever. If you could see Earth from space during the Triassic period, you might not even recognize it. The familiar shapes of North and South America wouldn't have been there, or Europe or Africa or Asia. During the Triassic, all the land on Earth was bunched up in one supercontinent called Pangaea, and there was only one giant ocean. After spending a few minutes observing life in the Triassic period, the kids returned to the Science Museum. It's time to jump forward almost 50 million years and see what things are like in the Jurassic period. Braden's journal entry. The Triassic period was over 50 million years long, and that was just the first period of dinosaur life on the planet. Compared to the dinosaurs, we're babies. Brr, it feels cold in the museum compared to the Triassic. I think Tiny is glad to be out of there. Ready for the Jurassic period, investigators? As the Jurassic period went on, the supercontinent Pangaea began to break up. Europe and Asia split apart from North America, and South America began to separate from Africa. Smaller sections of land were now surrounded by many oceans. The climate shifted. The Triassic had been hot and dry, but the Jurassic was hot and wet. Life flourished in the seas and on land as well. Many new species of dinosaurs appeared, and many new species of other kinds of animals did too. Hey, look, it's a bird. I don't know birds and dinosaurs lived at the same time. Technically, birds sort of are dinosaurs. They share a common ancestor. I think Tiny likes it here. Braden's journal entry. The earliest birds appeared during the Jurassic period. This one, Archaeopteryx, is thought by scientists to be one of the very first birds ever. You can recognize it as a bird even though modern birds look very different. That's what hundreds of millions of years of evolution will do. By the way, birds weren't the only ones with feathers back then. Scientists now think lots of dinosaurs had them too, even dinosaurs that didn't fly. As the years passed and the Triassic period gave way to the Jurassic period, dinosaurs evolved from their early beginnings into the shapes we're more used to seeing. Many familiar dinosaurs walked the earth during the Jurassic period. Sauropods like giant Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus ate lush vegetation that they reached with their long necks. Predators like Allosaurus hunted and ate smaller dinosaurs. Rosa, look! Oh my gosh, a Stegosaurus! Stegosauruses have an unusually small brain-to-body mass ratio. What does that mean? As big as they are, their brains are no bigger than a dog's. That Tiny isn't even scared. He's having a great time here. I liked it because Tiny liked it. So what do you guys think of the Jurassic period? It reminded me of Florida, hot and really humid. It looked just like Jurassic Park, except no T-Rex, because T-Rex belongs in the Cretaceous period. During the Cretaceous period, the continents continued to drift apart. As they moved, the map of the world began to look more like how it looks now. The continents spread farther and farther apart, and Earth got colder and colder. The weather in the Cretaceous period was cold compared to the Jurassic and Triassic periods. Toward the end of the Cretaceous period, the continents finally began to settle into positions close to where they stand today. That's a chilly wind. Button your jackets, everyone. Tiny doesn't have a jacket and he's cold. Here, he can wear my scarf. Look, it's a T-Rex. It's even bigger than I imagined. T-Rex was one of the biggest carnivorous dinosaurs ever. Its jaw was 4 feet long and it could eat an animal like the size of a pony in one bite. The Cretaceous period was a golden age for dinosaurs. New types of dinosaurs appeared constantly. Their populations were dense too. Many dinosaurs, such as iguanodons, traveled in giant herds. Tiny's scared. I think he doesn't like that flying thing. It's a pterosaur. And look over there, iguanodons, triceratops. What's that little thing? It looks like a rat or something. It's an early mammal, one of humans' earliest ancestors. Hey, check out this fossil. Remember the Permian-Triassic extinction, the event that killed off most of life on Earth right before the dinosaurs appeared? Well, the end of the Cretaceous period was marked by another extinction event, but this one didn't kill everything off, just most of the dinosaurs. Many scientists think it was caused by a giant asteroid that hit the Earth and set off a chain reaction of disasters, but nobody knows for sure. What we do know is that the only dinosaurs who've survived the Cretaceous Tertiary extinction were avian dinosaurs, the bird-like ones. We think of fossils as something we dig up now that shows us what it was like in the past, but dinosaurs were around for so long that some of them were already fossilized while others were still roaming the world. All right, it's 9:59 a.m., which means the museum is about to open. So now we've seen all 3 time periods that Tiny could have come from. Which period do we think he belongs in? I don't think it's the Triassic. We didn't see any dinosaurs that looked anything like him, and he was too hot there. He didn't like it. It is in the Cretaceous. He was too cold there, and he was scared of the other dinosaurs. It must be the Jurassic. He loved it there. He loved the weather, and I saw a couple of dinosaurs that kind of looked like him. The Jurassic period is also the only place where he ate anything. Clearly, he knew how to survive there. So just as the clock ticked toward 10 a.m., the investigators shooed Tiny back through the door as to the Jurassic period. Bye, Tiny. Take care of yourself. Now we really got him home in the nick of time. What's in the display now? Just fossils. You know, we never did figure out what kind of dinosaur Tiny was. I think I know how we could figure that out. What's your theory, Rosa? Well, we know that dinosaurs could be as small as well as big, but I'm pretty sure they didn't get much smaller than Tiny. So Tiny was an unusually small dinosaur. And we know that he was a meat eater too. We saw him eat a lizard, remember? So we would just have to look for a small Jurassic dinosaur skeleton with sharp teeth, and that might be Tiny or one of his relatives. Looking at dinosaur skeletons in a museum is very different from having living dinosaurs right in front of you to study. You don't know how big their muscles were or what color their skin was, or if they had feathers. Paleontologists only have skeletons to work from, so they have to make a lot of informed guesses. Examining bones is the closest a paleontologist will ever get to going back to the Triassic, Jurassic, or Cretaceous periods. The investigators were very lucky today. They were more like zoologists than paleontologists, at least for a little while. We'll never know for sure, but it's possible that Tiny, or one of the species, is in this very room as a fossilized skeleton. Congratulations, that's amazing. Good work today, investigators. We got Tiny back home where he belonged, and we learned a lot about dinosaurs at the same time. Yep, see you next week. And what I love about these books is in the end, they give you some experiments that you can try. You can create your own archaeological dig and make fossils and all kinds of stuff. So I encourage you to check out the series of Let's Investigate with Nate. I hope you liked this video on dinosaurs, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.